What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Extremely Decent Video Game Podcast, episode number 31-ish. I'm not quite sure the number, like I never am. I'm one of your hosts, Jay Lewis. Joining me today, as always, is my good man, Nathan Hodge. How's it going, good sir?
I am hanging in there, man. I have been battling a cold for the last couple of weeks, so I am just barely pulling through today.
All right, so the trick is, Nate, you need to take a green herb and a red herb and mix them together, and then, that'll give you max health.
I can tell you've been playing Resident Evil lately.
Yeah, so let's just get right into that. Uh, I wanted to talk a little bit about it. First and foremost, I wasn't actually going to get Resident Evil 2 at launch. I was going to wait till it went on sale and grab it then because I was trying to save my money for Metro Exodus. That was the one that I was kind of leaning towards because I want to play something new. And I like everything about what I'm seeing out of Metro Exodus. I love the stealth combat and stuff. But I was watching a Let's Play on my TV, what was it, 2 nights ago. And my wife, she sat down, she's watching it with me because I'm watching on the big TV. I was just beaming YouTube to my television. And she's watching and she's like, oh, this isn't that scary at all. It's like, believe me, this game is freaking scary. She's like, no, bullshit. And I was like, we got to play this game. She's like, yeah, we should. She's like, go ahead and buy it. We'll stream it. So I got the okay from the wife to buy the game. We haven't streamed it yet, but I did play it for about 2.5 hours before we got on this podcast today. Anyone that wants to check out any gameplay footage, go check it out on Twitch. My name is Game Day J on there, and you can see my stream. Bro, this fucking game is amazing. I don't know if you've watched any Let's Plays or any videos of it yet. Have you seen anything?
I have seen some gameplay footage. My real big question is how much does it play like Resident Evil 4?
Okay, so I know you were seeing some articles saying that they kind of pulled some of their inspiration for the control scheme from Resident Evil 4. I'm not getting Resident Evil 4 vibes at all, dude. Like, if anything, this feels like a kind of faithful recreation to Resident Evil 2, minus the fact that, it's not top-down view. It has those weighted controls like the second one did that almost like builds tension inside the game. I definitely don't get any Resident Evil 4 vibes from it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I guess what I was most curious about is like whether it had like the over the camera view constantly.
Like over the shoulder view?
Over the shoulder, yeah.
Yeah, like I know it's pretty much, yeah, that camera view, but if you want to change it, I know in the options, actually I got the game pulled up right now because I know you can tweak that. Yeah, because under camera it says camera inversion, so normal gameplay, and then it's lets you go y-axis, x-axis, x and y, none, and then with aiming you can change the accesses, but it doesn't look like you can change right here. So you can change the field of view. You can change the camera speed. It even has where you can make the camera wobbly or non-wobbly. So anything that's going to be in regards to that, like if you're somebody that doesn't like that over-the-shoulder view, because I know some people have issues with claustrophobia. I mean, that's kind of what this game's like core mechanic is to make you feel like you're in a claustrophobic situation. But yeah, you can tweak the camera however you want it, so that's pretty dope. I didn't realize it was that deep. I'm not having a problem with it. I kind of like where the camera sits. What's your thoughts on that? Do you like it to be over the shoulder, or would you tweak it at all?
I mean, for me personally, the closer it is to Resident Evil 4, the more I'm going to like it. Resident Evil 4 is like my entry into the franchise. So if it controls anywhere close to that, I think I'd be real satisfied.
Yeah, from the looks of it, you can probably mask it almost like completely because, like I said, the big thing in 4 is the camera speed, and this one lets you tweak it however you want. And then, yeah, the field of view, so you can kind of zoom out on your character a little bit. Because if I'm not mistaken, 4 was kind of further away from the character, correct?
I believe it was.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't really on the shoulder like this one is. So yeah, you can definitely tweak it that way. But aside from the camera, dude, like the gameplay, fuck, dude, it's so good, man. The way they use the combat knife in the game like adds a new depth to the game. Because one of the game's like mechanics is like, you know how the game is with the bullets. You always only have a certain number of bullets, and it's never in the character's favor. So using that combat knife, dude, it's vital. And like if you go to stab a zombie, there's a chance that your combat knife will get stuck inside the zombie, and then you can't get it back until you kill the zombie. So it does force you to use your weapon like here and there. And I'm actually using assisted aim assist. I find it to be funner to play that way. This game is already difficult, and the fact that headshots don't necessarily kill the zombie, like you could shoot it 3 times in the head and it will down the zombie, but then about 5 or 6 seconds later he'll reanimate and get back up. So using that combat knife is awesome. If the zombie grabs you, it'll prompt you to use L1 to where you can pretty much one-shot it, and your knife will get stuck in the skull, and then you have to remember to pull it back out. And then there is weapon degradation. What am I trying to say? I always say that word incorrectly.
Degradation.
Degradation. So yeah, you only have so much use with the combat knife, but I was kind of scavenging some of the dead officers' corpses, and I was able to obtain a second one. So it does seem like, even though you can only use one for so long, it's not finite like before. You can have multiple knives on you at once. But then you know how this game kind of revolves around the inventory system, and early in the game you can only fill like 6 slots, but in my 2.5 hours playing, I've already found 2 hip pouches, which enables you to carry more items. I think I'm up to like 9, or I want to say it's like 9 items at this point. And I'm only 2.5 hours in, but it does make you want to constantly go to your locker and save valuable items that you don't necessarily need at the moment. And I'm saving just about as often as I possibly can. I believe on the harder difficulty setting, like hardcore, you can only have a certain amount of saves. You have to find these ink ribbons, which effectively act as your save. So if you only have 1 or 2 ink ribbons, that's how many times you can save. So that's another reason I didn't really want to play on hardcore mode. Like, again, it doesn't really immerse me in the game at all. I mean, if I beat it, because I heard it's about a 9 or 10 hour playthrough per character, so I'll probably beat it on normal mode and then go back and give it a shot at hardcore and see if I can handle it.
Yeah, those hardcore modes are that's for when you really like the game and you really want to challenge yourself.
Yeah, and I definitely am going to at least check it out. I'm loving every minute of this game. The graphics are amazing, dude. Like the animations on the zombies, like there's no game that's even close to it that I played. The one thing they weren't able to kind of fix is like the character animations, like the faces. Like, you know how like especially you see it a lot in like Bethesda games and RPGs where the teeth and the eyes look extremely weird, almost like they're popping out of their head. Well, that's found its way into this game as well, and I just kind of get put off by the facial animations, especially when Claire and Leon are talking to each other. It kind of takes me out of it a little bit, but that's my only real complaint when it comes to the visuals itself. The little cutscenes are outstanding, particularly as soon as the game starts off. I don't want to spoil any story, but yeah, it starts off on this truck driver, and just the way they made his truck look and his character look, and even the way he's talking, the voice acting is so good. There's an extreme amount of polish on this game, and I think it's definitely going to be a contender for Game of the Year. I mean, it's I think anyone that wanted a Resident Evil 2 remake, this is about as good as you can hope for, man. I'm really digging it. can't wait to keep playing it some more. Like I said, follow me on Twitch to check out all my Let's Plays, Game Day J on Twitch. But I'm curious to hear what obscure game you're currently playing.
Well, I'm actually not playing a game that's too obscure. I'm knocking out a game that was in, well, it was on my back catalog, a game that I've been wanting to play for a while. I was able to pick it up at a discount. So I'm currently into Nier Automata, or
Nier
Automata, however you
It's
want to pronounce
Nier Automata.
So, yeah, so I've gotten into that recently. It's hard to like describe this game because it's really weird and it doesn't feel like a next gen game. It really looks like it was supposed to be on like the PlayStation 3 or something, but it plays very well, very intriguing. So I've been having the most fun just experiencing the characters in the game. Because as I don't know how much you know about it, but I'll give like a brief overview of the plot. And you basically play as an android who is sent to Earth to fight alien robots. And as weird as that sounds, they actually do some interesting stuff with the concept. Like the androids are starting to get emotions, and the alien robots that are on Earth are, starting to form societies and becoming self-aware. So there's a lot of little sociological things going on between your characters and what you think are the enemies. So I've been having a lot of fun with it. It's a great game. I would highly recommend picking it up. It's got kind of like an open world action adventure RPG feel to it, because you more or less have like a main hub that you can go to resupply and upgrade equipment, and then you can wander out into the world and go take on various side quests or mission quests or what have you. And I just beat the game on its first route last night, and I was unaware that you could play it again as different characters.
Yeah, and isn't that this game's like one of its core mechanics is like that's the whole goal, is to go back and replay it the second time because it unlocks new areas and new abilities and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's what I'm finding out. It took me about 17 hours to get through the first storyline, and then it basically starts over and tells the story again from the other android that you're paired with's point of view. And I really like it. I'm not usually big on that concept, but they use it really well here. You get to see things from a completely different perspective, which is kind of rare because usually in these kind of, when you switch up character roles, you're pretty much just playing the same game over again with a different character model. This actually feels like you're playing a different storyline and seeing things completely differently.
Is this kind of like a hack and slash? I'm pulling up some images here, and I noticed like she's got like a sword on her. Is it like a hack and slash or more of like a?
I would closely equate it to a hack and slash. It feels very much like Devil May Cry meets Bayonetta. It's actually made by the same people who did Bayonetta, and so I'm all about that franchise. That was one of my favorite franchises, and so the combat system feels very much the same as that, except for you've got the added RPG elements.
Yeah. What's going on with the turret? Like my brother-in-law played this game, and he was telling me how like there's like a turret that follows you around, and that's like a big part of the core gameplay.
Yeah, so you have a pod that is basically it's like your little floating computer companion, and you can upgrade it and use it to fire a long-range weapon. In my first playthrough, I had like the basic machine gun that you can use to strike from long distances, and then I got a multi-missile array that I got on another upgraded one. And you can find other pods, so so you can have more than one to switch between. That gives a little bit of change up to the combat dynamics. And
Now is this pod? Does it have like a voice? Is it talking to you? Like, is there like a character interaction between you and the pod? Because it looks like a
yeah,
little robot that would be talking. Kind of reminds me of like Claptrap, if you're more familiar with the Borderlands series.
yeah, it's kind of like Claptrap. Obviously, it doesn't have much of a personality. It's just kind of a dry robot, and interaction with it is rather minimal. You're mostly interacting with the other android you travel with, but the pod will talk to you and tell you, like, hey, you need to be doing this, or this is the situation right now.
Oh,
But
so he kind of helps give you some direction and stuff.
right, and yeah, I think you could lean mostly on going towards a long range fighting style if you wanted to. There's a lot of customization options that you can kind of tweak your character with and your play style. So if you wanted to be like a long range kind of shooter game, I think you could do that. I think you could kind of skew your abilities towards that if you wanted. I tried to be as balanced as I could be because I really like the close range combat in this game. But
Mhm.
there are definitely enemies and situations where you have to kind of rely on the long range combat too.
Yeah. Now, looking at some of this artwork, I noticed that both your character and like this clearly android. Are you seeing this picture that I have pulled up right now?
I'm not seeing it on the screen now.
Okay, well, those watching are seeing it. His arm is like torn off. You can clearly tell he's an android. But my question is, they're blindfolded. What does being blindfolded serve to the game? Like,
So I'm not quite sure about this yet. I think there was a quick allusion to it at the very final moments in the first story's arc. I'm not quite sure why they were blindfolded. There's a lot of story elements that haven't been revealed yet on my first playthrough, so I'm expecting that they're going to get more into that maybe in one of the other playthroughs.
gotcha. Well, I really dig the art style. One thing I remember seeing, because I did do some research on this game when it was being launched. I was thinking about picking it up. I noticed that in one of the videos that I watched that it looks like just like an open world type of 3D environment, but then like another vertical slice I saw, it was almost like on a 2D plane. Can you explain what's going on there?
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite aspects of the game is that it utilizes various gameplay genres. So you'll have a section where you're flying around in a robot and it's like a top-down shooter like Space Invaders. It will go from that to being like your mech will transform and you can go into like a asteroids type scenario where you're fighting enemies. Even when you're in ground combat, it can change drastically. It can go from being a 3D brawler to a side-scrolling platform to a top-down perspective.
Now, is that like
So
limited to bosses, or could that just be like regular enemies in the world?
it can be regular enemies. It usually has to do with like what section you're fighting through. Like uh, most of this will actually happen in the first 45 minutes of your gameplay, so I'm not really spoiling too much. But the first 45 minutes of the game will take you through all these different kind of gameplay mechanics, so you'll get like a good taste of each one. But it really depends on where you're at and what you're doing when it decides to shift gameplay.
Yeah, I really like the art style. I'm looking at a picture right now, and it's just kind of her like looking down on some type of village, and there's like fireworks blowing off in the sky. You see that in the game?
Yeah, yeah. There's so there's an amusement park section,
I
and
was
I
gonna say because
begin.
there's a Ferris wheel in the background here too.
Yeah, that area is one of my favorite areas of the game. It has this very Tim Burton-like surrealism to it.
Oh, man, you're selling me, dude.
Yeah, it's really good. That one section of the game is very interesting, and I have my suspicions that the game actually takes place in Florida. Now, I can't confirm
Mm.
this whatsoever, But the landscape is completely flat, like you'd find in Central Florida. There's a coastline, and then there's the amusement park, which looks eerily
Interesting.
kind of like a destroyed Disneyland. So it's hard to say whether or not it does take place in Florida, but uh, I kind of feel like it does, or at least that's going to be my head canon, is that this takes place in like the distant future of a destroyed Florida.
Very interesting. Do you know what time period this is focused on? Like, obviously, it's in the future, but how far into the future do you know? Did they say?
If if I remember correctly, it's around 5000 AD, so it's like a few thousand years after our time.
Hmm.
And I didn't see any like the humans are supposed to be on the moon now since the alien attack, and they're just using the androids to wipe out the aliens. So I'll probably learn more about that as I play more through the game too. But that's all I know so far about that much.
Damn, dude, you're really selling me on this. As if my backlog wasn't big enough. Um, Now this definitely looks like something I want to check out.
Yeah,
100%.
it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you can pick it up on a discount like I did. And it's a pretty quick playthrough. Like I said, I played through the first scenario in about 16 hours. And I really did kind of take my time because I was doing as many side quests as I could just because I was having fun running around in the world. But one of the things I will warn players about when picking up this game is don't expect to be impressed with the game graphically. It really does look like a PlayStation 3 era game, but I can guarantee you that the gameplay mechanics, the combat, the RPG system, the upgrades, the variety of gameplay that can be found within the game, and the story itself is enough that you should definitely check it out if you're into this sort of thing.
Heck yeah, dude. I think I'm going to look into that one. Nate, the next thing I want to talk about is recently Sony and they had a reveal trailer for Days Gone. It showed a little bit more of the world, a little bit more of the mechanics that are going to be involved with the game, and they kind of turned the marketing around for some reason. That whenever Days Gone had that big feature reveal on what is it? Game Informer magazine. They showed off like an hour worth of combat, and they kind of tried to stay away from the story missions and stuff. But for whatever reason, it wasn't very well received when that happened. And slowly, I feel like Sony's kind of honed it in and have done a lot better job at marketing this game, particularly this last trailer that just came out. And then today, right before we got on, I was reading an article here on PlayStationLifestyle.net. Everybody should go take a look at this article. It's written by Peter Finaldi. I think I'm saying that incorrectly, but anyways, it kind of just was like trying to give people an idea on what to expect with this game. And inside the article, it was just saying how like most zombie games that you play today, they either have some kind of multiplayer mechanic to them or they're like couch co-op. There's not really deep lore in these zombie games. Inside this article, he was just kind of letting people know that if that is what you're expecting out of your zombie games, you might want to avoid this game. And that is what has my hype on a whole new level. They're saying that the story is pretty much the core focus of Days Gone. I know we've talked about it a little bit in the past, Nate. Remind me what you thought about Days Gone, and are you at all intrigued with the Northwest setting? Like, where are you at with this game?
From a little bit I've seen, I recall a little bit of the new trailer. I really like the biker aspect of it. Like that's the main selling point of this game for me is that, it seems like you can customize your bike and that's your main mode of transportation.
Yeah, and
So
in this article too, he was saying how that's like a major focus of the game is that bike, upgrading it, getting a bigger gas tank so you can go to new areas on the map. And if your bike breaks down, you're able to kind of roamage through all these like junkyards and stuff so you can fix the bike and things of that nature. And it actually did say that there is no difficulty mode in the game. I guess this game is intentionally supposed to be pretty difficult, and if your bike is messed up, then apparently it makes the game like 10 times more difficult. And there's nothing that indicates where your motorcycle is at on your map. If you go too far from your bike and you don't remember where you parked it, you can legitimately lose your motorcycle and have to start kind of from square one. But continue.
That actually sounds really interesting. Like, I like games that have kind of an added realism of difficulty to them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of an interesting aspect that's got me intrigued. Was this also the game that had like the hordes of zombies that would run at you?
Yes, and so they talk about that in the article as well, and that is just one specific class of what they're calling freakers. They're not calling them zombies, but that is like the horde freaker. Apparently, there's another one. It's a female zombie, and like what she is, she's like a screamer. So if you want to take her out first, so you want to do it quietly so she doesn't know you're there. If you're able to successfully kill her before she screams and alerts the hoarders, then you'll have a lot easier time like getting your way through that area, and you're able to successfully scavenge a lot easier without that big horde of zombies on you. It also said there was another zombie or freaker class called I forget what it was called, but it's a child zombie, and their mechanics completely different, and what their abilities are different. So there's more than just the horde. So that's just a whole nother level of awesomeness in the game.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too. And oh, here we go. Um, Yeah, the children have turned into freakers as well, and they hide in dark hideouts, forcing Deacon, who's your character, to enter with great caution. These young freakers climb walls and ceilings and can easily hijack Deacon from above. So that's pretty freaking crazy. So they're going to be looming in the dark, basically. So if you go into like a barn or a shed or something and it's real dark in there, I'm assuming your flashlight's going to serve you pretty well there. But that just goes to show you that the world that they're creating, how it's going to have those jump scares, much like a Resident Evil game would. So I think the level of scariness in this game is going to be pretty deep, and that has me even more hype. Another thing that they were saying in the article too is that basically like your goal is to kind of like alleviate some of the hordes in the area, and after you successfully kind of like lower their numbers in that area, once you've got them down low enough, you can then progress to the next area. So that's another mechanic in the game. But everything I'm hearing about the game, man, I was already hyped for it, but I'm even more hype, especially after this trailer. And I've been in the forums kind of keeping an eye out, like just getting temperature checks on where this is at. Because the studio, what is it? It's God damn, I can't think of the studio now. But anyways, they have a lot riding on this game. This game's been in development for about 6 years now, and their last game it wasn't very well received. So the studio, Sony Bend is the studio, by the way. They got a lot riding on this game, and I'm hearing a lot of rumors saying that if this game fails, they literally could go under. So I'm hoping for Sony Bend's sake that this game is well received. I know there's a lot of fans out there, their survival horror genre, and one of the things that I saw originally is that, oh, why would I play Days Gone when The Last of Us 2 is right around the corner? So I feel like Sony's done a pretty good job of like letting people know, like, hey, listen, The Last of Us 2, don't expect that game anytime soon. That way they're giving Days Gone plenty of time to breathe, and I think that was rather smart on their behalf to do that. I'm just curious, are you going to plan on picking this up, or are you going to wait for a sale?
This is the type of game I'll probably wait on reviews. If it really turns out to be an exceptional kind of open world survival experience, I may end up checking it out. Otherwise, I'll probably skip this one.
Yeah, yeah. I'm hoping it gets the good scores, and I implore you to read this article because it tells you all about it. They're letting you know that it's not just a generic biker gang, because that was one of the things going around the internet. The characters have a lot of deep lore in them. The lore is actually inside the game. You don't have to go looking for it. So I'm extremely stoked for it. I just want to talk to you a little bit about that. That Pacific Northwest setting, it has me enamored, dude. I'm really, really looking forward to it. And yeah, some good news after this latest trailer. Um, that brings us, Nate, to our topic of the podcast. And I told everybody last month that I wanted to focus this episode on some of the awesome indies that are going to be coming out this year. And then immediately after saying that, Nintendo, they had like this big, what do they call it? Nindy announcement, if you will, because a lot of people were upset that there was no Nintendo Direct, but instead they did this new Nindies Direct, and they revealed 9 new games. Nate, did you get a chance to watch that video on all 9 of the new games announced, or were you able to see any of these games?
I remember browsing over it. I'm trying to pull it up right now to refresh my memory.
Yeah, for those viewing, I'm going to pull up the link right now. Should work. Let's see. Yeah, here we
Because
go.
I'm looking at a list of the announced games.
Yeah.
And some of these, like I know some of these have already been released
Right, right,
for Nintendo,
right.
but just looking over it, none of these are really like standing out. The thing with indies is like they gain most of their popularity after they come out, after they get good word of mouth.
Right, right.
So it's really
Absolutely.
hard to just take a look at some of these and say, this one looks like it's going to be good, because they all look very unique. They look, like something you might want to check out, but you really have to kind of wait and find out if they actually press beyond, normal gaming conventions, because that's basically what you have to do with a lot of these indie games is like really push the envelope if you're going to do that old school style gameplay.
Yeah, once the industry gets a hold of it and starts, talking good things about it, and you see some reviews come in, that's when these games tend to, take off. But one that I wanted to talk about that really had my eye is Unruly Heroes. So I'm going to pull it up now for those listening so I can show some screenshots. But I'm really, really, really digging this art style. It's 2D, and it really reminds me of a game back on the Vita. Do you know a game? Oh, man, I played it and I was telling you about it. Shit. Do you remember what that side-scrolling indie game on the Vita was that I played? The characters, like the females, had big voluptuous breasts on the cover and stuff. And
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about now. It was Dragon's Crown.
Dragon's Crown. So it really gives me Dragon's Crown vibes, dude. Minus the big breast, but I mean the art style seems very similar. This one seems really cool. Let me read the description. The sacred scroll preserving harmony in our world has been torn and scattered into the winds. Now strange and terrifying creatures are sowing discord and chaos throughout the land. Inspired by the famous Chinese novel Journey to the West. You ever read that one? I know you're into that culture.
I am familiar with that one. I've never read it.
Oh, okay. Unruly Heroes tells the adventure of 4 totally opposed heroes who must collect all the scroll fragments and travel to fantastical worlds to restore balance or die trying. This seems like a Nate-ass game right here. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, I'm looking at screenshots of this right now, and yeah, this is definitely right up my alley.
Yeah, and like that's the thing too. Like when I want to talk about indies, dude, I started looking at like this Nindy announcement, and I'm like, my Nintendo Switch, I think it's really just going to become the home to where I play all my indies, much like I used to on the Vita. It's just perfect, man, to sit back in that handheld mode and just sit there and play these like 8 to 10 hour indies. It's just perfect for it, man. I'm more hyped to do that on my Switch than I am to play their first party stuff personally.
Yeah, I think we got some indie games on. I think I played most indie games on my Nintendo consoles, whether it's my 3DS or even on my Wii U. I played some good indie games on there.
Yeah, so what's the Switch watch looking like? You still waiting?
Oh man, the wait is getting harder and harder. I'm probably going to end up getting that soon. Of course, that was a big news story this week. Is that Metroid Prime 4's development basically got restarted, which was one of the big games I was waiting for to come to the Switch to really get me to buy the system.
Hmm.
So I'm okay with that. Really, I'm okay with them saying, "Hey, the game's not up to our standards. We're just gonna do this whole thing over again, and we're gonna make sure it lives up to the standards of Metroid Prime series."
How
So
crazy is that though? Just to start all the way over, man. That just goes to show how much that they believe in the game and they don't want to mess it up. They don't want to upset fans and that's why Nintendo first party games when they come out, it's almost like you can have full confidence that you're going to get an amazing experience. Am I upset that now that they're going back to the drawing board? Yeah, I am, but I'm assuming they already have a lot of the art assets that they need, and I think that they're going back to the drawing board because they have a new focus. So I feel like the wait isn't going to be as long as people may be thinking it is. I don't think we're going to have to wait another 4 years for this game. I think they could probably get it done in 2. I hope they can get it done in 2 because I'm really looking forward to it.
yeah, I certainly hope it doesn't take that long, but I do very much appreciate that at least they told us what was happening. And just kudos to Nintendo for not releasing a crappy game for just a quick cash grab.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But I look forward to when you get your Switch, dude, because I mean it's only $25 a year to play online, so that's a easier pill to swallow, and we can play some Smash Brothers and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, dude, when you look at this list of indie games, like The Messenger, that's a newer one that came out. That came out August of last year. Rave reviews on that one. Hollow Knight got rave reviews. Dead Cells, Celeste even got nominated for Game of the Year last year. You got Undertale. Stardew Valley is a great game that just got a new multiplayer mode attached to it. So that's another good one. You got Overcooked 2, which is a fun couch co-op game. Here's a newer one, Moonlighter. This came out November of last year. Really, really dope art style. Nate, I sent you a video of that one. I'm not sure if you remember, but that's a Nate-ass game right there. Yeah, Hyper Light Drifter. I mean, dude, the Nintendo Switch, you can say what you want about it, like not having that many, big AAA games on the thing. But if you look at the quality of the indies on this thing, I mean, and to me, like indie games, they're a lot more interesting because they can take bigger chances. They have smaller budgets, so I just feel like they can do more with these indie games. And there's so many freaking awesome looking ones. There's one that's coming to the Xbox as an exclusive. Can't remember what it's called, but it's like a cyberpunk. It has a cyberpunk look to it, and it's kind of like an 8-bit style. I got to get you the name for that, and you need to check that one out, Nate. But yeah, I think 2019, man, this is going to be where indies kind of like start coming into the mainstream. I can see people starting to play them a lot more than they used to, especially since so many are coming to the Switch and so many people are buying the Switch. The Switch actually has been beating the PlayStation 4 It's just selling like crazy, man. I think it's up to like 30 million units now. So,
Jeez.
yeah, dude. So, you know, you're gonna be getting one soon too. So I look forward to playing a lot of dope ass indies on it.
Yeah, definitely. I'll I'll probably end up having to rebuy a lot of indies for that.
Yeah.
Gladly too,
Yeah, I was gonna
especially
say,
Hyperlight Drifter.
yeah, when it comes to like indies like that, I generally, if it's something that I'm vaguely interested in, I'll just buy it anyways. You know, it's a small sacrifice to keep these studios being able to create new and interesting things. Housemark Studios, like their last game, like they're my favorite indie dev, and their last game, it was Alien Nation. I wasn't that big into it. I could tell I wasn't going to be that big into it, but because I loved them so much, I went ahead and bought it just because, Zombie Nation is, or no, Dead Nation. I'm sorry. Dead Nation is my favorite indie of all time. So, you know, sometimes you just throw these guys a bone so they can just keep making cool shit, you know?
Oh yeah, I'll definitely be doing that for Hello Games when their new indie comes out.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to that one as well. There's just so many cool ones. I wish I had a bigger list compiled, but we had so much to talk about this month. I'm sure we'll probably talk about a lot more indies in upcoming episodes. Maybe we should make it a point just in every episode just to highlight one that, you know, we've got our eyes on so more people can be exposed to them. But Nate, you got anything else you want to talk about, good sir? Are you ready to wrap this thing up?
Well, I also did pick up Power 6, so I could give my quick impressions on that, I guess.
Okay, go right ahead.
I've been like a huge fan of the Soul Calibur franchise, and I've been wanting to pick up the newest one because I heard that the creative mode was pretty good, and I'd seen some interesting things come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I went ahead and picked it up, and basically characters in this game. I barely actually played the actual game. The creative character is pretty good. I wouldn't say it was better than some of the previous installments, but it was good enough for me to create the kind of characters that I like to create. I basically make my own roster of fighters in these types of games and pretty much primarily use them. So in that regard, I did enjoy my time with the game. Now, one thing I wanted to talk to everyone about this game was its story mode, which is awful, I have to say.
Yikes.
Just so bad. It's basically still images, and what will happen is you'll start a character's story mode. You'll get a perfect image with like 10 minutes of dialogue with a very rough background picture. Then you'll go into a one-round battle with some randomly generated fighter, and then you go through like another 10 minutes of dialogue with portrait boxes and hastily drawn backgrounds. So I can't really recommend the game for its storyline. I wish fighters wouldn't try to do that sort of thing. Fighting games are really for, quick belts of fun and entertainment. So if you're going to have like a storyline to it, at least make it entertaining, at least make it dynamic. Have actual character models in these cutscenes reacting and doing stuff. Don't give me just portraits with dialogue boxes that go on forever.
Yeah,
it's boring as crap.
That's a big part of the reason people play those games is so you can see like the little intro moves when the characters come in. Like that's what those games are. So if you take that out, I mean, you're missing a big part of what those games' purpose are. It's almost like watching wrestling when you see your favorite wrestler like come into the rings. It's not even about the fight itself. It's about seeing your favorite characters like performing their entrance moves and things like that. That is the reason people play these games.
Yeah, and you still get that. It does have an arcade mode where you can play as, the classic 8 matchup, but for fighting games, story modes should be action-packed. They should be fast-paced. it shouldn't be like an RPG where, well, okay, so I should say that there is a separate story mode and then there's another story mode within the game. I can't fault the game for not having enough modes to play through. The only way I can fault it is them just being boring. So the story mode is a lot like the create a character story mode, which is pretty cool. It's more like an RPG where you can level up your character and get specific, stat-laden equipment and armor to make it through a story mode. So the fact that that's kind of long and drawn out is okay, but I wish they wouldn't have transposed that formula into the main game story mode where you play through as the pre-made fighters that have been with the franchise. I mean, you just don't need all that. That's just too much. So I'm never going to play that. That was a waste on their part to try to make that too long. I'm sure that there's some players out there who will love it, who will get all their money's worth from that. But for me, who just especially nowadays, I'm leaning towards shorter play sessions and shorter games in general. I don't want to spend 50 hours, playing through cutscenes that aren't even really cutscenes, really. They're just dialogue boxes in my fighting game. So be wary of that if you're a Soul Calibur fan. I also am a little embarrassed to say that I pretty much paid too much money for that game. Because not only did I buy it at its full $60 price point, I actually bought the 2 DLC characters, and I kind of screwed myself by not doing the research that I should have done, because you can get additional create a character parts by getting the season pass, which I did not know. So I ended up buying 2 characters, and then I bought the season pass on top of that, just so that I could get everything that came with the game. So yeah, be wary of that. If you're really getting the game for the creative character and doing creative stuff with the game, just go ahead and get the season pass, because it'll give you access to the characters that are coming out and their creative parts. Don't do what I did and buy the DLC characters and then buy the season pass, because then you're just going to waste $12. So lesson to be learned there.
I feel like these fighting games are always getting you. They're always taking your wallet. Because then you have the same, with Street Fighter V, man. You got nickel and dimed in that game too.
Yeah, Street Fighter V. Oh man. Well, let's not go there. But yeah, fighting games do tend to get me with these practices. There's 2 games that I give a pass to for this. One is Super Smash Brothers.
Right, they know how to
that game. Yeah, that game comes out with a ton of content, so I don't mind dropping the extra money on that. And Dragon Ball FighterZ, the newest Dragon Ball fighting game, was also a game where I really didn't mind spending a few extra dollars on DLC, because I got a really good game to begin with. And Soul Calibur 6, I feel like, does earn its DLC. Like, the game gives you enough with the, asking price. It's got plenty of game modes, whether or not you're going to play through them all the way or not. It's definitely worth, picking up some of the DLC for that game as well, I'd say.
So, 2 questions. Question number 1, are you going to be picking up that Power Rangers fighting game?
Nope. I didn't know that was a thing, and I probably won't pick it up unless it's somehow the most amazing fighting game of the year.
Where are you at with Power Rangers? Is that kind of like, were you too old at that point? Because I remember watching Power Rangers, but I had a brother that, is 10 years younger than me. So I doubt that without him being 10 years younger, I would have even paid any attention. Or do you just not into the Power Rangers because
I was a Power Rangers kid. I did enjoy the first few seasons and the 1 or 2 of the movies, embarrassingly enough. But yeah, I'm not like completely estranged from Power Rangers. So I mean, if it is good, then it is something that I definitely take a look into. But for a Power Rangers game to win me over, it's got to be a cut above the rest of the fighting games.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like how it plays. Like, are you the avatar, or like is there some kind of like you are able to summon, your your pterodactyl or whatever the case may be, your T-Rex, and use that in combat. I'm just curious how they do all that and how good it looks. I don't know if they're giving this game a real budget, but if they did it, I feel like there could be something cool there. I lied, so now I have 3 questions. Which is your favorite Power Ranger? Were you a Red Ranger guy?
Billy, I guess I could say he was the Blue Ranger.
Okay, he was the nerd, right?
Yeah, he was the science guy, so I kind of leaned more toward him until, of course, Tommy came along, the green
he
and
was a
white
Green
Ranger.
Right.
Yeah, so green has always been my favorite color. So whenever he came with the Green Ranger outfit, then yeah, he was my favorite. He's most people's favorite Power Ranger.
Is he the one that had the flute that would summon his thing with the flute?
Yeah, his flute was a dagger that he used to summon his sword, I believe. Yes.
God bless you, Power Ranger. All right, and then my next question was Mortal Kombat. Did you see the reveal for that? Is that still not doing anything for you? Is the hyper violence just too much at this point in your...
Well, okay, so this Mortal Kombat does have me a little bit more intrigued than the previous ones do, and it's mainly because of the customization that they're bringing to the franchise with this installment. I really like the fact that they're giving us classic versions of Mortal Kombat characters as well as newer versions, and the ability to kind of customize the way they play and the way they look. So that part very much has me intrigued. I've also heard that they've made some adjustments to like the X-ray bone crushing gameplay mechanic. I don't know exactly all the tweaks they've made to it, but I'm interested a little bit more in this Mortal Kombat than I have been in previous ones because of just the customization options. The hyper-violence thing, as you know, just like I enjoy it. It doesn't bother me, but it becomes there's so much of it that I get desensitized to it so quick that I feel like the main draw of the game being the hyper violence becomes the main detracting point for me, and it doesn't take long for it to wear out its welcome with me. So this is one that I'll definitely be keeping my eye on it, but whether or not I pick it up really depends on whether the customization and the character selection really holds up. So we'll see. We'll see on this one. I do have my eye on it, though.
Yeah, shout out to Ronda Rousey voicing Sonya Blade.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so they're bringing in some MMA characters into the mix. So I thought that was really cool. Who knows? Maybe my brother will play like Mortal Kombat character one day. You never know, right?
Oh, one could only hope.
Yeah. So I actually didn't check out any footage on it and stuff. I'm assuming they're going to lean into the hyper violence like they did with 10. But like you're saying, maybe there will be a way that you can turn the X-ray mode off. And if so, I'd be a lot more curious about it then. Because like you were saying, like getting to play as some of the like old school characters, I'd be all over that. Like I want to rock Baraka again. I heard he's in it. So, if they bring back some of those older characters and the gameplay is as good as I think it might be, then I might actually check this one out. Because you know me, I'm not the biggest into fighting games, but Mortal Kombat, it has a special place in my heart. Back when I had my Sega Genesis, nobody could beat me in Mortal Kombat 2. So we're at Mortal Kombat, what's this, 11, right?
Yeah.
It might be time, man. It might be time. But anything else there, Nate?
I think that's about all I got for you this month.
Okay, the last thing I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to talk about it very briefly, and I just wanted to say that, Far Cry is my favorite video game franchise of all time, and I've been kind of cold on New Dawn. I think it's going to be reskinned, but I did want to just say that there has been some new information that's come out on it that I'm very intrigued by. And they're saying with New Dawn, they're taking the franchise to a whole new area, and now it's going to have light RPG mechanics to it. Have you heard anything about that?
I have not.
So now there's enemies are going to have, your typical bar above the head indicating the amount of damage that they can take. So that's one of the new things that's very welcome to me. So now I know if I need to use a stronger weapon or use a different tactic against them. So I like that idea. Also, there's create your own weapons now. So you can create weapons, and you can find like new, like legendary weapons and things that like you would find in an RPG in New Dawn. So I'm very intrigued by that, and I think it's very welcome to the franchise. That's one thing that I feel like Far Cry has always been a little behind on, is stuff like that. And I think having some light RPG mechanics in the next game has me very intrigued, and I'm kind of happy by it. What do you think about that? Do you think that turning the Far Cry franchise into a little bit of an RPG, do you think it makes sense? Do you not like that idea? What's your thoughts on that?
I'm always going to be a little bit partial to RPG mechanics. I like the feel of progression you get from those sort of systems. So that definitely sounds like a plus in my book.
Yeah, just the fact of knowing that, like, you could kill an enemy, and they could reward you with a weapon that is extremely rare that nobody else has. Because to me, that's like the carrot on the end of the stick in a lot of these loot-driven games. And bringing that into the Far Cry world, I'm all about it, man. And I'm going to be keeping a closer eye on the game now. And if reviews come in strong, then it might end up being a day one purchase. But we'll see when the time comes. But just wanted to bring that up and let you know I'm keeping my eyes on that one, guys. Other than that, Nate, as per usual, I thank you for joining me. I wanted to experiment with Hangouts one last time and just see if this might be a better way to record, because what I was trying to do, Nate, is as we were talking about these games, I figured you were going to throw an obscure one my way. And I like being able to kind of look at the art style, and I like to be able to show the listeners that as well. I don't know how the sound quality is going to be, so I'm going to dissect it once we're done. And if it doesn't sound as good as the way we recorded last month, then we'll go back to using Skype. But if anyone was wondering why we're back on Hangouts, that's why. I'm going to keep trying to evolve the podcast and give you guys the best quality that we can possibly give. So thank you for joining me, Nate, and thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you in February. Later, guys.